Hello, I'm Lynn Rogers, an author, artist, and advocate, honored in 2023 by Who's Who of America. I've written books like Born in Berkeley, The Rainbow's Daughter, and Where the Flowers Have Gone. Dave Hickey is part of Silicon Valley's retired industry. He's creative, he writes literary introductions, criticism, he's been a literary host. We have a lot in common in terms of our interests.
Right,
Welcome.
that's correct. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. So let's take each one in order. Born in Berkeley is the first one, and this novel is about a young woman's coming of age. She's a teenager in the book, growing up in a very well-to-do home in Menlo Park, and she feels that it's there's something better and more interesting out there for her, and she meets some very stimulating people. She gets involved in the protest movement. She gets involved in the protests against the Vietnam War, the protests on behalf of disenfranchised African Americans and persons of color, as it existed back then. Students Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. You said John Lewis was the head of that, and of course Stokely Carmichael was a famous figure in that organization as well. And so that takes her out of Menlo Park and her home and takes her up to Berkeley and other places in the novel where she participates, and has a very powerful effect for such a young woman. She also goes to Mexico, where she meets up with luminous figures of the day such as Ken Kesey and Neil Cassidy, and she brings a very fresh perspective, a young person's perspective, to those very famous men who were idealized at that time. And so it's a very interesting book, very exciting. So your next one is The Rainbow's Daughter, right?
Yes.
And this one I discovered. This is how I discovered Lynn. As an author, I listened to an interview on KKUP, a local radio station. She was being interviewed by a high school chum of mine who became a very prominent broadcaster on the station, Eric Mystic, and I was just really captivated by the content of the interview. She was an author who wrote about the Bay Area, and there are very few books about the Bay Area that are prominent. So I was immediately captivated. I wanted to, after the interview, it's very intrigued by what you said in the interview. I went and bought the book where I could get it, and I read it, and the rest I read it very quickly. It is really her man. I think it's the best. I've read most of her novels. I think this one is really outstanding, and she writes about a blue-collar cult in Santa Clara, San Jose, and it's spine-tingling what happens in that group, and I'll just leave it at that.
You know, Dave, the group that started early in '70 progressed for about 7 years, and my character, based on my own experiences, eventually leaves it. It was the shadow and light. It was a Camelot and cult to her. Looking back, it's hard to believe I was ever that naive. Searching for my spiritual path, I became involved in with what some might describe as a cult. But it wasn't that way in the beginning. It was more Camelot than cult, a soul family with past life dynamics. I created all the illustrations for this book in pencil, and it was enjoyable to see the characters, now renamed, come to light through these sketches.
Yeah, the illustrations are just outstanding, and they really capture the eerie chill of the book, as well as the joyous moments.
My character, through this leader, blue-collar leader, Daisy, is invited to a Silomar where she's introduced to a woman much older, associated with Edgar Casey's work, and that woman becomes her lifelong and my mentor. She's called Elizabeth, but her real name was Jessica Madigan. So a group of young people are drawn to meet her. She herself had been orphaned as a child in the Deep South. She had some of Edgar Casey's gifts, and she went on to become a lifelong mentor for the character. So I have a small biography of her also in the book. When we look at this trilogy right now.
What about don't forget
yes,
where the flowers
we
are
must go
there.
on. Sorry. The third in the trilogy, and there are potentially 14 books, the third in the trilogy also being republished as we speak by Daniel Yaring, sparring at Beatnik Ghost Mystic Boxing Commission, is, you described it as a love story.
It's a love story from its time and in the context of the culture of that time. And it's you're still relatively young, and your partner is a little bit older, quite a little bit older, right?
Well, my character is sort of swept into an affair with a man who said that they knew each other way back in the day. She has a partner older and fictionalized him, but she's conflicted about this younger man, maybe only 4 years older, who said to her that once upon a time when she was 15 and he was 18, that he climbed through her window in Menlo Park.
Yes.
That didn't, she questioned that, but she did think they met at the home of a socialist brother and sister whose parents had fled the House Un-American Activities situation. They may have met. Whether they had all the experiences that he indicated seems dubious, but as I began to write this, his experiences came to life for me, and experiences that my character had that I may not have had fully were more vivid than the current exchanges. They meet in the 80s, and they're drawn back to teenage years. I gave her a drug-induced memory gap, and it's all about kind of trying to remember and the essence, the best of times and the worst of times in that era, and bring the best forward. So this is now, David and I have talked about a trilogy being republished by Daniel Yaring, and we're excited to share a little bit more about the books.
Absolutely.
I've always felt that after you write a book, the book it's like a world, and when a person opens the book, they enter the doorway to another world, and it comes back to life. Anything you'd like to add about this trilogy?
Well, I think that's a very good description, actually, of all three, is that you open up the door to a very interesting life in each one. I just want to add on the Where the Flowers Have Gone novel, is that the character, I just thought about this as you were speaking. Daisy in The Rainbow's Daughter
is similar to Aiden Rose.
Is similar.
Oh
yes.
yeah, I just thought that today too.
It's Aiden Rose is part very inspiring intellectual as a professor, and he's part Yosemite Sam. He's
womanizer.
He's got a wildness to him.
Manipulates people.
That's he's constantly in motion, furious, impulsive, and very charismatic. A very compelling character that runs through that novel.
So she's in both cases dealing with people who might be called a narcissist, but who are very compelling to her.
Yeah, they're very interesting.
As she came of age in the South Bay on the peninsula, the Bay Area. The stories stretch between San Jose, where we are now, Mountain View, Santa Cruz, Palo Alto, Menlo Park, a lot in this story on two sides of the freeway in two different economic communities, a wide span with plenty of encounters in Berkeley. In this one, the young Aiden and colleague go hear Allen Ginsberg in a rickety fire trap in San Francisco that's well described, and we listen to one of the great beat poets. So I invite you into these rooms, into these worlds. And I thank Daniel Yaring, and I thank you, David Hickey, today
for
your perceptive comment as ever. After these three books, he began to write the introductions and
I wrote the introductions for many of your subsequent
many
novels.
other books. We also appeared at San Jose State's local lit in 2016 and 17, where I was honored as a local author. David is very talented himself, and I hope he goes forward with all of his
Thank you.
creative projects.
Thank you.